BDSM safe words, Logan gets COVID, and Gabby says goodbye to Nate. This was week 6 on The Bachelorette Season 19.
Ow, ow.
I am Liz Donatelli, and my co-host is Tiffany Current. You are watching Romance Recap, a weekly talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that reviews and discusses dating reality shows. We are deep diving into a historic season of The Bachelorette, which follows the romance journeys of Gabby Windy and Rachel Recchia. Hello, Tiffany.
That was hilarious. Can I just say, I was so emotional during this episode. I was crying ugly tears, like ugly Gabby tears this episode.
Really?
Like for the first quarter of the episode, then things changed, but it was very emotional for me. What about you?
I was deeply affected. I was not moved to tears. I felt for Gabby. She was crying so hard that my husband came from the other room to see what was happening. He thought I was watching it and that I was crying.
He's like, what's going on? What's going on?
And he's like, are you crying? I'm like, no. And he sat down. He was taken in by Gabby's heartbreak. And it was very believable. My heart did go out to her as to him.
Yeah, I felt it in my heart.
So they're in Amsterdam in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And one-on-one date, Nate and Gabby. And wow, what a date. Basically, it was just put together for Gabby to share with Nate how reticent she is to become a mother, given her own issues with her mom. And I actually thought they were just talking it out. I didn't realize this was goodbye.
Oh my God. I had a feeling because at the beginning of this episode, we see Jesse talking to Gabby and you can tell that Gabby's on edge. Yeah. She's nervous about something. And I'm like, she is about to dump Nate. And I had a feeling because it felt like their relationship hadn't progressed that much recently in the past couple episodes. And I think she was afraid of the kid thing. And we see them on this date. He first sees her and they kiss passionately and cutely, and they start walking around Amsterdam and talking about the time they've been there before. And then Gabby sits on a bench and the tears just roll out of her eyes. Yeah. Immediately.
It was intense. Yeah. And she was, as she's speaking to him, she's doing the, like, you can't catch your breath. Which, I mean, that's what affected me, because we all know when you get to that stage, you have so much emotion, you can't even get it out, that it's like choking you up.
It's almost like choking. And he, for a second, when she started crying, he looked nervous and shocked, and she's like, it's okay. Yeah. And then eventually, I think she said the line like, I wanted us to have a great day today, to be able to say goodbye. And that's when you saw his expression change. He's like, she's breaking up with me. Yeah. She's breaking up with me.
I still thought, even after they had this goodbye, I really did think, oh, okay, maybe, her feelings will change by the end. She still wants to, do a hometown with him in the next episode. But then his luggage is removed from the cruise ship, and he's shown to the goodbye car. And I was
he's gone. Let's talk about that. I was sad. I mean, she basically goes on to say that she's been terrified. She's terrified because she's terrified of not only just being a mother, but of being a bad mother. Yeah. And she knows how much this child means to him. Yeah. And so she's concerned about meeting her. She said, I think at some point, she's like, I know that she's so lucky to have you. And I know if I were to meet her, I would have no choice but to fall in love because she's so much like you.
That was a beautiful sentiment. Yeah.
I mean, that was just so deep and heartbreaking to hear and just to see. And she felt it. She meant it.
What's heartbreaking to us as viewers is that we know just her recognizing it means she would be a great mom.
I know.
And that she would truly show up for that child and love that child as her own. So it's almost like you want to say, but you'd be good. You don't realize it, but it's up to her feeling ready for the challenge. So
she's not ready for it. And what I love is that Nate says, when the time comes, you're going to be a great mom. Even as he's getting broken up with, he still manages to calm her down and say something sweet. And this is when I was in tears, Liz. I was like in tears this whole moment. I was like, oh my God. Cause it was the same thing. I'm like, I'm like, they're really breaking up. I was like, they're really breaking up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think also the fact that I kept denying it, I was like, no, this can't be it. I think it helped me not get too emotional. I was really impressed by at the end of that horrible segment of Heartbreak, she said that the way he handled it made her even more want to be, with him and, more in love, because he handled it so well and was, like, you don't have to apologize. And you're so sweet that you're worried, about offending me, but this is, your life and your choice. And yeah, so he really, that had to be the nicest and saddest breakup I've seen on any of these reality dating shows.
It's so true. And I felt it and I believed it. And you could tell they both really cared for each other. So they're both being kind about it.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, he was crying at the end and wiping his tears as she was crying, wiping her tears. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was emotional. And that segment lasted quite long in this 2-hour episode.
Yes.
So.
And as I mentioned, like, I was like, okay, so we're having this long date, which means we're going to hometowns. That wasn't it. It just happened to be a very long segment.
Yeah.
And the next up is just filler. Just filler.
the most of the rest of it is Rachel and her shenanigans. So Zach is chosen for a one-on-one date, and the most entertaining part of her selecting Zach is the reactions of the suitors, because they've all gotten to the point where the competition is heating up and they all want time with her, so that way they get to go to hometown. And when each suitor, their face was just more dejected than the next, that it was Zach that was chosen. And we start seeing Tino losing his patience, and he's very frustrated, and he's like, I'm going to go to the gym and pout. I
got to work off this steam. It's so interesting watching when Gabby's men were picked and how they were like kind of supportive. I think eventually they're like talking about him having a kid. But when he was first picked, they're just like, oh, and then like cut to Rachel's guys like, this is bull. Like, what?
I noticed.
Interesting.
I noted the same thing. I said, group Rachel, these guys are a little less enlightened, more competitive. Gabby's guys, they all, honestly, I feel like they're all going to hang out after this show. Like,
they're all going to be best friends. They're all going to be best freaking friends. I'll just say a quick thing when they were talking, like at some point, I think Johnny was talking to Logan about Nate, whatever.
Yes.
I feel like we first got introduced really deeply to Johnny last episode, and little glimpses of him this episode. I'm really liking Johnny. He has a lot more depth than appears.
Agreed, 1,000%. I also picked up on that. He was chatting with Logan in such a reasonable, insightful way. And I'm like, where has this Johnny been?
Yes. When he was talking, I was like, oh, you're an eligible bachelor. Like, he was it was the first time I was like, I'm really understanding now why she picked him. Like, I'm seeing it now.
I'm seeing it too. And I'm like, and then when I realized he's from Florida, I was blown away. I'm like, really? He's from Florida? Because he seemed like he was from Florida at first.
Yes.
Now he feels like he's not from Florida.
Like he's somewhere maybe from like, I don't know, upstate New York or something, because he really gets it. I don't know.
I was thinking Vermont. I don't know why, because he's always wearing boots. Like, he's on a cruise ship wearing these heavy boots. I was like, he's expecting snow.
He's expecting snow. So let's get back to Rachel and her boring date. I have to admit, I was just like, when I heard it was Zach, I was like, fine, whatever, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I mean, there's not heavy making out. Like, there's a lot of kissing with Zach, but I was hoping for Tino level making out. But I was hoping she'd pick Tino or even Tyler, because they go into it. But
they go in.
With Zach, it's going to be a little bit more conservative kissing.
He's reserved. You wanted that. You wanted to get in there. I will say, so they go on this tulip date, whatever.
With the Polaroid camera. This Polaroid camera is ridiculous.
I think that must be a marketing part. This has to be a marketing part.
Oh, you think?
They go on there. It's gotta be. Why else are they showing this freaking camera? Nobody wants this camera. They go there, they go to the tulip date, and then they stop and they see these random children selling lemonade on the side of a road. I was like, all right, sure, fine, whatever. And then finally, they go to the hot tub.
in
They
a
get to a
tulip
hot tub.
field.
Yes, in a tulip field.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of sweet, but not particularly intimate.
Hot, steamy,
or hot.
Well, I mean, because the kids with the lemonade are like right down the
I'm pretty sure they're right there in the tulip field watching them.
They're squeezing those lemons. Like,
what are they doing? Yeah, for sure.
Can I just say, so they're in this hot tub talking, and Rachel looks horny as okay, let's just be real. She looked so horny. Zach was talking and she was like rubbing his hair and his chest, and she's just thinking, I don't care what you have to say, just kiss me, just kiss me. And he just kept talking. She was so like, she needs to get laid. Like, she legit needs to get laid right now.
Yeah,
I felt it.
Here's the thing. It's interesting. Your take was that she was overly horny. Now, she did keep pouring through his hair, which to me was annoying and condescending, like a little boy. But anyway, I was taking it that she was overacting. I felt like she was almost trying to look more interested in him than she felt. That was my take. Although I also know that she always has that simmering need for I
think like she hasn't had sex as far as we know on the show yet. And so maybe she just has to like really get it in, because she's always like just touch me. Somebody just touch me right now. I need to be touched. Like, she's very aggressive. So
that could be it. It could have been just really horniness. I took it as her overacting to kind of like, she didn't really feel into him. So she was acting that way. So that way she could get to, you fake it till you make it. So, they talking about hometown, because every conversation in this episode basically is, how do you feel about hometown? Even though you may or may not be joining me for that.
It's like, how do you think I feel about hometown? Like, are you picking me or not? I don't want to discuss it.
Yeah. Obviously that's the producers say, oh, talk about hometown. And Zach's like, you can meet them now for all I care. Like, I'm on board. I'm 1,000%, blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about that dinner in the museum.
So they went to this museum, and at first I was like, which museum is this? They never said which one it was. I was very kind of curious about that, but we get there, they have the dinner, and that's when we find out about not only his past relationship, but that he was apparently 85 pounds heavier before. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of weight to go down from.
That was a lot of weight that was dropped in there, and like, he did not explore it. And I immediately paused the television and I searched Zach.
Oh no, you did not.
His last name is Shallcross. Zach Shallcross. I put fat photos because I figured that's how people would write it, So
that's how you'd Google search for it. Yeah, that's right.
There were none. I could not find any.
I'm gonna have to do my own investigative report later, because I'm kind of curious. 85 pounds, though. I don't know. I don't recall seeing him without his shirt off. I guess it's a lot. That's almost 100 pounds. So I guess it's like almost.
That's a lot. He must have looked unrecognizable.
Yes, it was interesting because it sounds like it wasn't very clear, but that was apparently emotional weight, because he didn't feel as he said that he didn't feel whole. He was self-conscious, and I guess he went to therapy, and that's what helped him. He didn't say that that's what helped him lose the weight, but I guess he went to therapy and he felt better. But the way he was talking about it, he seemed very hurt emotionally. Like, he got past a serious trauma.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the weight was on, and etc. But whatever it was, he did sound very mentally hurt. And I was like, this is deep.
He sounded like he was revealing a devastating chapter of his life.
Yes. I will say, what was interesting here is when he started talking about therapy, I'm like, this is a running theme of this freaking season. Apparently, every single person has been in therapy. Like, every single person has been in therapy. Yes. Except for Johnny, who needs to go to therapy, apparently.
Who needs to go to therapy, but speaks as if he has had therapy.
Yes. Maybe he doesn't need to go then. I don't know.
He doesn't need it. I don't.
But then we learned that apparently Rachel went to therapy after Clayton. So I was like, okay.
Yes. And that she loves it and it brings her great joy. The way she explained how much she loved therapy, I was like, okay, take it down a notch, Rachel. Therapy has been a theme, which actually I really enjoy knowing that there are more people, especially from younger generations, seeking professional help and seeking extra support. But I wonder if when the producers are doing the background, do they pick people they know have had some kind of therapy to offer the bachelorettes, more healed, whole individuals?
I guess if you pick someone who's been to therapy, you're picking somebody who's worked on themselves. So maybe they have their lives more together. So maybe that would be the reason for the pick. So I could see that could be a reason to bring on certain types of people. That makes sense.
So I'm wondering if that wasn't just a coincidence, but just happened to be maybe part of the producers working their magic. Yes.
They're on this date and he says, I'm falling in love with you.
Yes. And what does she say?
She says nothing, but kisses him back in return.
Her default when she doesn't want to, I think, deal or speak is to kiss and is to make out. It's like it's a distraction. She uses her kisses as a weapon of distraction.
Yes, I agree with you. But I'm glad that we both found that of note. Like, oh, what's she going to say? Nothing.
I actually felt for Zach. I'm like, oh no, Zach, you're giving your heart to her and I don't know how she feels about you. Poor Zach. So Gabby, before her group date with the guys, decides to meet with them and share with them that Nate is no longer there. And she tries to get through it without crying, but she can't. And all the guys are very compassionate, particularly Johnny.
Yes,
the front in comforting her and kind of is the spokesperson for Team Gabby.
Yes, he said we were so worried about you. I just wanted to give you a hug just to make sure that you're okay. And I'm like, Johnny, you are amazing right now.
Really impressive.
He's great. Very
really impressive. And even though he's also layered again for a snowstorm, he always has layers on in the boots. Even though that distracted me a little, I was like, I can look past it.
I don't know when tulip season is in the Netherlands, but they are on a boat. So maybe it's chilly on the boat. So maybe that's why he's wearing sweaters. Jesse is always wearing sweaters.
Oh, yeah.
I know, but that's because that's his signature. That's his signature.
Maybe the boots are Johnny's signature. I don't know.
They are. And each guy gets up, and I have to say, half of them gave awkward hugs. Some of them just don't know how to give hugs.
I think Spencer was like, I'm giving a hug. What's a hug? Yeah. We will hug you well. I don't know. It was like,
it might be a Frankenstein.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It was super weird. So, and then from there, we get a fantastic group date from Gabby. Where does she go, Liz? Where does she go?
Some kind of BDSM room where they meet with a dominatrix. Okay, which, listen, I think this date had a lot of potential and I don't think it lived up to it. And I think it's because it's on ABC Network and streams on Hulu, because this was the most unsexiest BDSM encounter with multiple guys. This should have been hot. And it was not.
Like, I should have been dripping sweat by the end of this.
I should have been wet.
It's so terrible.
Wet from sweat. Come on.
Shut up. Look, I understand. At first, this is me. When I saw it, I'm like, okay. I was like, there's no way this is a dominatrix. This is ABC. There's no way. And then when they continued with it, I was like, how are they going to do it? And how they did it was they kept it PG. They kept it PG.
And bleeped. And bleeped.
And bleeped. So the dominatrix starts by going around asking people very intimate questions. For example, I think she said, Eric, how often do you
pleasure yourself?
Pleasure yourself. Walk your dog. I don't know how to put it. And he's just like, oh, but he was thinking in his mind. He's like, well, man, how many times today did it? Yeah. Then she asked Johnny, of course, like, how many people have you slept with? Yeah. Johnny was like taking a very long time to figure out those numbers in his head. He was very cute. And then they went around talking about safe words.
Yes. I wrote them down. Everyone gave a safe word, but Eric. For some reason.
Maybe we just didn't see it. Maybe we didn't see it.
Well, I wanted to know. So Johnny's was pumpkin.
Oh, he was pumpkin.
Jason, cruise ship. Very original there. Good thinking on your feet, Jason.
He's fast thinker. Okay, yeah.
Spencer, Albuquerque. Why did I find that hot?
That was, oh my God, no. That was to be hilarious. It was, when he said Albuquerque, it's like, this is a guy you can tell who has never been in one of these situations. He's just like, what's the most unromantic thing I could think of? Albuquerque.
Is he from Albuquerque? Is that why he thought of that? I don't know. I couldn't remember.
I don't know, but like, what I liked is that he said it and the guys are like, that seems appropriate for you.
Yeah.
For you. And I was like, oh, this
Well,
poor
but
guy.
his thought process was it's a word that doesn't sound like any other. So there would be no mistaking Albuquerque means stop. Like
Yes.
they would get the picture. And Logan, listen, okay, I've had my issues with Logan,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I thought this was kind of funny that he picked asbestos.
That was cute. That was
And he
cute.
gave
It was
a little
funny.
reason about it. You know, nobody wants asbestos especially in the bedroom. So that would be a good safe word. What do you think Eric would say? What do you think Eric would pick as a safe word, being we didn't hear what he picked? Well, what do you think would be?
I don't know. I always like the word peanut butter though. I feel like peanut butter is a good word to
Peanut butter.
use.
So
It's not my safe word. I don't have
I
one
don't
that's
know. I think
relaxed.
he might have revealed too much. I think he would have tried to be like unique.
Peppermint patty. Peppermint patty. Peppermint patty. Peppermint patty.
He probably would have picked a food, most likely, because
Yes.
people seem to pick foods.
I feel like it's easy to remember. Like, what would yours be? I think Doritos is good. And that's like too cute because I don't think I would. Peanut butter, I would think of.
You know, that's a good question. I feel like I used to have a safe
Ooh.
word, like just I never used it.
Philadelphia.
What do you say, mafia?
No, Philadelphia.
Oh, you did. I thought you said mafia, and I was like, you know, mafia might be a good one.
You're being too aggressive, mafia.
Mafia, mafia. After the safe words, then
Yes.
there's a tickling segment with Gabby tickling the guys, and the guys trying to tickle her with what looks like a cat. It looks like a cat toy. The thing with
It
the
was a
feather at
cat
the end.
toy. The funniest one was Spencer, once again, who was the most uncomfortable person.
Yes.
He was like 3 feet away from her, just slowly reaching out, like, I don't want to touch her. I don't want to touch her. I
Yeah.
touched her. He was
Yes.
so
Even
hilarious
the
to me.
dominatrix, I think her name was Susie, was like, "Are you afraid of her?" And she said it in such a commanding voice.
was so like traumatized by this whole thing. This whole time was Albuquerque for him because he's like, oh, this is way too much over my head. It was cracking me up.
But you know, Johnny really was very comfortable for someone who already
Yes.
said he has low self-esteem. Apparently his self-esteem is more internal, not about his external sexual self, because he took off his shirt, got down to his boxers.
He was
that
just in
looked-
his boxers. He got in his
Um,
boxers.
yeah.
He was in it. He's like, oh, anything you want to do, I'll do it. So then at some point, all the guys lay on the floor. And I guess Gabby goes around using different objects on them. I think one is like, I don't know. One is whipped cream, like sometimes on the nipples, sometimes in the mouth. And notice she kissed Johnny in the mouth after she squirted
Yes.
some whipped cream in his mouth.
I have to say, I thought the scenario was hot, but the execution was very PG. But yes, she blindfolded all of them,
Yes, that's true.
which heightens the sensation. And she did nipple clamps, I think, on somebody.
Oh,
She did on Johnny. What did she do on
she
Johnny?
did whipped cream at some point.
the
Oh, was
wax.
it the wax?
candle
Yeah, that was
wax.
hostile. Yeah.
And then she also did whipped cream on him and then kissed him. And I thought that was, listen, anytime you can have whipped cream in and out of the bedroom, it's sensual.
It was cute. Like that was fun.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I think that's pretty much how it ended. They just had this big
Pretty
whipping
much.
date, and then we're gonna see, like, I guess some sort of a group drinking night with Gabby's men. But then of course Jesse walks in and he's so like,
oh my
can I
God.
talk to you? And she's like, okay.
And he's like, we have a situation with one of the guys. What do you think she's thinking when he says
Look,
we have a
I
situation?
totally thought it was a situation that Logan decided to leave or something, or Logan decided to do something obnoxious. But instead, Jesse says that Logan, he has COVID-19. And I was like, okay, that's it. Like that's the dramatic situation.
I kept thinking, like, are all of them going to get tested? Then nobody else got COVID? Like,
What I love is he's like, obviously we have to cancel tonight. And I'm like, aren't the guys living together in the same room?
quarantine
He's
for the
just
next
like,
2 weeks.
he's just like, clearly Logan is, off doing whatever. But I'm like, they're legit sleeping in the same room together. So I was like,
Yeah.
they're out of luck. It was someone that she actually cared about, like one of her top 2.
Yeah.
Would they have left the boat?
They would have had to.
Or maybe they would have kept
Yeah.
it a secret. Because if it was like her number 1, I don't think they would have been like, you're off the show. They would have been like, all right, I guess we have to
Oh,
delay
I see
production.
okay, I misunderstood. I was thinking, so you mean would they have eliminated? Because he's got straight up eliminated, which I didn't realize until later in the episode.
He got eliminated, but I think if it was
COVID.
someone that because he got COVID, if it was somebody that she really cared about, I don't think they would have eliminated him.
You're right. You're right. No, you're right. They figured Logan was expendable. Actually, I'm thinking the producers purposely gave him COVID. I'm thinking someone with COVID was let into his room at night and breathed on him. And they're like, good, now we could get rid of Logan.
It was probably Rachel. Rachel's like, I have this COVID thing in my pocket. Yes.
Rachel licked his face while he slept. Although then she'd have COVID. But who knows? But they give her the secret antidote.
So Rachel goes and has a group date in Cheese Town. Adam. Yeah. So they go to this cheese town, Adam, to kind of enjoy the cheese. And what I thought was hilarious that we see these guys eating cheese and we cut to Avon eating cheese and he tastes and he's just like, it's okay.
He was not impressed. I know. He was like, oh, okay.
He's like, it's just cheese. But I thought that was hilarious to me. I'm like, oh, he's funny. He's just like,
it was.
Then finally we get to a cheese strength competition where the guys hold cheese on their shoulder in a way.
Yeah, it looked like scales. It looked like a wooden set of scales, and on each scale they kept adding more and more cheese.
Exactly.
Round, yeah.
And I guess whoever could hold it the longest would win. And I guess Tino won. I think he kind of won, but he kind of offered somebody a trade or something. I think I missed it.
Yeah, honestly, first of all, Tino only won because of his height. I think because of his height, he was able to bear more. The other guys are significantly shorter.
That's true.
But they do seem stronger. Can I say how impressed I was with Ethan? Shirtless.
Yeah,
Ethan?
I was very surprised to see his body. Like, he's a nice physique.
He was, and it was down to him and Tino. He had his own, and I think it was up to like 5 cheese wheels or something. And Tino, I didn't catch it either, and I didn't want to keep rewinding. But Tino was like, hey, I'll make a deal with you, Ethan, if you do something and let me win. But I don't think Ethan, whatever it was, Ethan, I don't think agreed.
I don't quite know. Either way, Tino ended up winning. He was excited, and then they go on like a group bar date, whatever, later where people make out again.
Cocktail date.
And basically Rachel ends up giving Tyler a rose, and Tino is furious.
Oh, Tino is not having it. He congratulates Tyler very disingenuously, and walks out, and he's talking to a producer. Who is
probably a producer? Probably a producer.
He's talking to a producer, and then he's also talking one-on-one to the camera. And he's really unhappy. He's very pissed off. He's using profanity. He feels like he doesn't know where he stands with Rachel. Yes. He feels like maybe I've been misreading this whole thing. We just had a date. It went really well. I expressed my feelings. She was in agreement. Why is he getting a rose? And then in the other room, you see the rest of the suitors. And I don't know who said this, but someone said,
I think it's Ethan. I think it was Ethan.
Was it Ethan? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Ethan.
Tino complains a lot. Tino is acting like a baby back bitch.
I heard that too. And I was like, I've never heard that phrase in my life, but I need to start using it. It was amazing. I was like, baby back bitch. What does that even mean?
It's like baby back ribs meets being a bitch. I don't know. It was funny. Tino did not curry any goodwill with the other suitors after his reaction. It was like, oh, you can't act like that. And then Ethan had a brief
one-on-one to say that they were kind of disappointed that he stormed off, and Tino apologized and he admitted to his feelings. But then I think after that we finally get to the elimination round. It was not dramatic for me because I'm like, I already know what these people are gonna pick.
It wasn't at all. No surprise. And they built up, where each Gabby and Rachel look so torn. It's like, come on, guys.
We know the guys. It was so overly dramatic. Like, we know what's going to, and it was like, we know it's going to be Eric and Jason and Johnny. And it was.
There you go.
No freaking shock.
He got rid of Spencer because he had a bad safe word. And
because he's like, Albuquerque. I've got to go home. I'm like, okay.
Bye, Spencer. Spencer. And then Rachel picked, obviously, Avon and Tino and said goodbye to Ethan. Because let's face it, she and Ethan, while they have made out a few times, we never really saw them talking.
Never bought it. No.
Anything. Jesse, when he came out, right before the final rose of the evening was given out, I said, oh my God, someone's coming back. I was like, Nate's coming back. Like,
You were so hopeful. No.
And then he's like, everybody, this is the last rose of the evening. And then he just went back
choose wisely. It's like, we already know who they chose.
Like,
it's not a shock.
Yeah. So goodbye to Spencer and goodbye to Ethan.
Bye, 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 yeah. Bye, 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 yeah.
This was the most anticlimactic round of our rose ceremony.
Yes, it was. I think if Nate had been, they'd be more like dramatic.
Yeah.
But we did get a quick glimpse into next week. And I was like, finally freaking hometowns, because guys, we got to get to some dirt. Like, let's narrow it down. I want to see the real options. Let's see them meet their families. It's finally happening next week. Yeah.
This hometown, and this is my first hometown ever, because I've never watched the show before. So I'm excited to see how raw and honest the families are. I don't know if they're coached beforehand and told to keep things toned down, but I'm looking, based on the teaser we saw, they don't tone it down, because Tino's dad, Mr. Franco, seemed to be giving Rachel a hard time. And I agree. I think she should be made accountable for all the things she says. So it should be interesting.
I think we're finally getting to drama. So that's good.
Tiffany, goodbyes are so heartbreaking. I don't know if I could say goodbye, but we must.
It's true.
To love.
To love.